that's hard to hear. I know it feels like an attack on everything you felt and everything you gave, and every real moment that actually happened. I'm not saying it wasn't real, I'm saying the person you were having it with wasn't fully who you thought. You loved someone with your whole heart, completely without reservation. And that's not the problem, it's actually the most beautiful thing about you. The problem is the person you loved that completely was partly you, partly hope, partly the best version of him that showed up sometimes, just enough to keep you believing that version was the real one. But people show you who they are in the small moments, not the big ones, not the dates, not the apologies, not the times they knew who you were watching. In the moments they forgot you were paying attention. That's who he was, you were paying attention. You just didn't want to keep score. The version of him you loved didn't exist the way you needed him to. The version of him you loved was real enough to feel, real enough to hurt, but not real enough to build anything on. The version of him you loved was his best day and your most generous reading of every other day, combined into one person who only showed up when conditions were perfect. The version of him you loved existed, just not consistently, just not reliably, just not enough to be called love from his side. And that's the part that breaks everything open, doesn't it? You're not crazy for loving what you saw. You're not naive for believing the best version. You're not weak for staying when you saw the rest. You're just someone who loved more than they got back, and kept trying to close the gap with more love, more patience, more explaining, more hope, and more of you. And the answer was never more of you. The answer was someone different entirely, someone who showed up the same way every single time. Not just when it was easy, not just when they felt like it, not just when they had something to lose. Grief this, let yourself grieve this. Not him, the idea of him, the relationship you thought you had, the future you planned with someone who was never fully there. For all of it, that deserves grief. Real grief, not the kind you apologize for, not the kind you hide because you're embarrassed that you didn't see it sooner. You saw it, you just loved him anyway, and that's allowed, and that's human, and that's over now. And you're allowed to grieve it, all of it without explanation. The version of him you love was real, was real. Your hope was real, your effort was real, everything you felt was completely real. He just wasn't, not the way you needed, not the way you deserved. And knowing that changes nothing about what you felt, and everything about what you do next, everything about what you do next. Let that land, let it land, then get up.